Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be turning a Mercedes into a mommy. Alright, and the Mercedes in question is the 300 SL. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, well, we're going to learn you a little something. We're going to start off with some lore, and then we'll just hop right into some designing and stuff. So pretty much a TLDR. So it started out as a race car, the Mercedes Benz W194. So with the W194, they were pretty surprised with the success in racing in 1952. Because it was only equipped with carburetors, no fuel injection or anything like that. Especially for a race car, not quite the ideal setup. And then they made that into a road car in 1954, and then that's when the 300 SL came about. And really what made it popular is the low weight and then low drag. It was a pretty competitive choice for racing. And then if you wanted to buy it new, back in the old days, it was $6,800 USD in 1954. And today the average price is $1.6 million for the gull-wing version. It also had great handling, very low body roll, and was incredibly steady at higher speeds. And it also had auxiliary fuel pump for high RPM performance, so you're not running lean or anything like that. So now we know a little bit of lore. I say we just hop right into some designing. So for some design aspects real quick, color-wise, I'm thinking I'm going to go with the blue one with the tan interior, and they came with these blue checkered seats. There's a few different options. You could have gray and green, gray and blue, and cream and red. So we're going to go with the gray and blue just because I feel like that. That's my favorite color that it came in, so we're going to be rolling with that. And for clothing-wise, right, so because of the gull-wing doors, which are about halfway down, and they open up, I'm thinking midriff would make sense, having just a little bit, and then having something more flowy around the shoulders. So something that goes kind of like this, maybe. We'll have to see how that ends up working. I'm thinking something like that, where it's baggier and also has the shoulders exposed, because again, they would have that inside showing. So then for some of the inner clothing, I'm thinking that the top would be black because of the grill is black, which I feel like that kind of makes sense, right? And to give me just more simple. And then and I think we're going to be having a skirt or something similar on the bottom here. And then probably glasses as well because of the headlights. I feel like that just makes sense. And there's slightly a yellow tint, so we could do something cool with that. And then obviously we're going to incorporate Mercedes logo somewhere. I'm thinking as a belt buckle could be cool, maybe. We'll have to see. I don't think we're going to do a hat or anything. And I'm thinking a more of a bob cut or something similar, like a shorter hairstyle. And probably blonde, I would say, because tan is pretty close to blonde. And I feel like blonde would also just kind of work out with the rest of the clothes pretty well. And since she would be pretty posh, I would assume, because she's pricey. So I'm thinking we would have some fancier gloves, just fancier clothing overall, some rings and stuff. Let's do the skirt real quick, because it's right here. And I think Mercedes logo is going to go here. Because if we look at the grill, it does have a horizontal bar. It's like a flat line and then the grill. So that kind of works out actually with the waistline here. So that's actually going a little better than I thought. She's going to be a true country boy with her belt buckle. Ooh. Even though she's British. And I was going to roast the reliability thing, but I think these cars are pretty reliable. Because I don't know about you, but if they're running 80 years later, I think they're doing all right. They were pretty well designed, so it's more of a modern plate, not a 50s one. And the reason I'm keeping this pretty rough is we're going to be going back over this with silver to have that shiny effect later. So we can think of this more as like a placeholder, just for the design. Because my dumbass will forget. So we got cautious in place so that happens a little less. I did a stream a couple days ago, at least when I was recording this. And we kind of decided that I'm probably going to be making a Discord server pretty soon. So it's not going to be in this video. I'm not going to drop it now. I'll obviously shill it some more when it comes, when it's actually ready. But I'm working on one at the moment. I just want to have it properly set up, so when it drops there's stuff to do. I'm thinking more of just a chill place to draw and hang out, but we'll have to see what happens. And these little things here are going to be that horizontal line on the grill that I was talking about as well. So because what I'm thinking with these is they kind of flow behind the character, and then this outside would be blue and this inside would be but actually what we could do is have the plaid be on the skirt, and then this would be inside would be tan, which that could also work out pretty well. We'll kind of have to experiment a little bit when we get to the color stage. So I think I'm gonna do something more, not necessarily a suit, but kind of like a suit inspired, I'd say, because I feel like it's a pretty fancy car, right? So we'd have to add some class to it, and we're definitely gonna have a necklace and stuff. We just won't be having it at the moment. That's gonna be a later shading kind of thing that we add on. And that arm is way too long, I just noticed. Jesus, she's not Brian Shaw. We can ease up on that. Yeah, I think glasses, that's gonna be the play here. They're gonna be I don't know if you know the rally headlights, those yellow ones, but I think we're gonna be doing something like that. Now we do the flip horizontal test. I'm not gonna say it looks good, but I think it'll do the job. I do think that the eyes are a little not quite in the right spot right now. So if we just scooch it all, there we go. I think that's a little better. I've always been a fan of the really fluffy hairstyles too. Oh really? I have no idea what they're called, but I think they were common in the 50s, so. Hey, look, we drew Saber. We need a little extra something to break the mold, though. Tell you what, I think that's a pretty solid design here. I'll be back with some base colors. So see you in about a quarter of a second. All right, boys, here's what we're looking at for base colors. I decided to do the plaid in the hair tie and the skirt because I feel like that just kind of worked out. Went with some black gloves just to like add a little bit of extra contrast because it kind of felt like they were blending in a little bit. And then, you know, got the dirty blonde hair. This is essentially the same color as mine, so pretty easy reference. Blue eyes, just because with the oranges in there, just works out. So this area, I'm using that as the blinker because the blinkers are orange. Just figured I might as well incorporate it a bit. And the dash is white, so I just had a little bit of white in there. And then I'm just keeping these pretty simple so they don't, it doesn't get too complicated. Because I'm thinking this would be like the outside paint, and this is the inside interior color. So trying to incorporate quite a few areas of the design while still have something fresh. I'm thinking I want to do a little bit more of a simpler shading scenario just because I'm not really that good at the moment with doing like more complicated stuff on plaids, and I don't really have the time right now to really solve that issue, so we're just going to run away from the responsibilities for a little bit. I mean, I just think the top-down lighting is like such a solid choice because especially for character design stuff, it just frames everything so well. It's like you don't have to worry about it at all. And one thing that I've been trying to do is have like less shading. If that makes sense? Because like what I used to do is I would go like around every single hair strand. And while that might be right, I just felt like I don't know. I just wasn't the biggest fan of how it was looking. And recently I've been just doing less of that, like just less shading, I guess. And I think it's been getting pretty solid results, so I might just continue to do that. I'm still like experimenting, obviously, but I mean, that's just kind of how drawing is. You just slowly experiment, and hopefully something works out eventually, you know. And one thing that I see a lot of beginners do as well, and me up until a month ago was included in this. If we think the hair, this whole body, right, this shading line continues out to the shoulders as well. So there would be no highlights there because their big ass anime head's covering it. So just something to keep in mind. Although I do think that the daily portraits I've been doing, I can kind of start to feel where like the autopilot kind of kicks in a little bit when I'm doing faces, and they turn out pretty all right. So I think we're cooking a little bit. It's probably going to be, I think, maybe number 100 potentially is when we might stop that, but we'll have to see. I think I do want to continue like just doing a daily drawing, even if it's not portraits. We just might scooch out of only portraits, you know. We'll kind of have to play it by ear though. All right, I mean that went pretty quick, so I say we just do some a little bit darker shading on the skin. And I just like to do the skin shading first and just finish it up. I like to do one element at a time. And since skin is usually like the thing that is covered the most, you know, I do it because even if I go outside the borders, it's not that big of a deal. Another thing I've been experimenting with is shading inside of the shadows. I don't know if that's just like normal shading for like anyone else, but I think a lot of my shadows were like just flat, like how this is right here. But in that specific case, I think it works out. But in a lot of them, I feel like it needs that extra little detail. So just a little extra thing I've been working on too. And I've also been trying out doing a little bit of airbrush action, you know, getting a little bit of gradients and stuff going on. I feel like it helps out when I add highlights, so then there's some variation and it makes them look like they're glowing a little bit more. But maybe I'm going crazy too. That's a pretty strong possibility. Yeah, I don't know how many of you guys did catch this last stream that I did, but I had quite a bit of fun with it, honestly. So I think I might start doing that a little bit more. Kind of just doing it probably 1 to 2 times a week. I'm thinking initially it's going to be more of just the daily portraits, but that's still a solid couple hours, so should be enough time to have some fun and not take your entire day up too, you know. So I thought her head was a little too big. It might still be, but the circle lines up, so we might just have to, let's see, so that's the head. No, that kind of lines up. Yeah, it's also one thing is when you kind of get like lost in the sauce of drawing, and then when you're done, you're like, oh my god, I made the worst thing ever. I would think for lore for this character, I mean, obviously it's a car, right? So it'd be a race car driver. I think that's just cool lore in general, though. That's a pretty cool job. I was thinking a little posh, but still like in a good mood, because like they describe, when people drive it, they kind of describe it as a friendly car to drive. So I was kind of incorporating that into the design, where it's like she's got a little bit of ego because she knows she's the shit, you know, but still has a friendly vibe, so not intolerable to talk to kind of thing. So I guess just humble but aware of where they stand is a pretty good description. Yeah, also this little variation right here, I think that really sells the drawing because it just adds that little extra little bit of detail that really, I don't know if it like makes it look 3D is the thing, but I think it just makes it a little bit more interesting to look at. Which I guess end of the day is the goal, right? So hey, I'll take what I can get. While we're here, I'm just gonna do a quick little shade on the hair tie thingies. You know, nothing too crazy, but just enough to make it a little detailed. And I'm trying to make the reflections I used to do on a separate layer, on the same layer, like while I'm drawing, doing the shading. I did it with the skin, and we're gonna try her out with the hair as well. Because I'm always trying to simplify my process when I can, you know, when I see something I can work on. It won't work with some colors like the blue. It doesn't look like it was working. But I think if we can just, if we can simplify where we can, you know, where's the harm in that? Let's go. And then we just need to use some, a little bit extra shading here and there. And we're pretty much going to be good. And I do find that like the more complicated your design is, the simpler the shading kind of needs to be. So that way you can actually see the design that you spend all this time working on, you know? That's a little silly if you overshade your design so you can't even see what you spent all this time drawing. So, which I used to do that like every single drawing, and that's I mean, sometimes it works out, but if you can spot when you're doing it, it'll just save you the time. I've noticed that one thing I'm not really the best at, and we're gonna have to work on that in some future character designs and stuff, is baggier clothes. I think what I do does the job, but it's not quite there, you know? Like, I don't think it looks bad necessarily. It's just like something's off about it. You know how you can kind of tell that about your own stuff, where it's like, oh, it's like this isn't quite right, but I can't really put my finger on it. And I think my baggy clothes are kind of like that. Okay, let's try and add that little reflection that I was talking about earlier. I kind of like the effect over here. I kind of like what's going on, so we might try and do that a little bit more often. Oh, I'm clicking shit. I think it looks like less muddy than the old way that I used to do it, so we might incorporate this a little bit more now. Yeah, again, that won't work in the blue though, sadly, it looks like, so we'll still have to go back and do it for that, but saved quite a bit of time doing that in other stuff though, so I consider that a win still. Alright, let's do the eyes real quick. Pretty simple. I just separate it into the two little halves here, so we got top, and then get almost black, and then you go more towards purple for the pupil, and then you just hit them with some scribbles, and similar thing for the bottom. And I always like to get a complementary color and toss it in there as well. Pretty subtle, but I think it just adds a little bit more pop to it. Well, I say we got some base shading. Let's add a little bit of red to the eyes here, and I say we just need to do a little bit of extra higher level colors, a little bit more saturation here and there. But first, almost forgot some of the drip. Need to drip her up if she's wealthy, you know. Can't be having no broke Mercedes here. I need enough for the engine rebuild in 4,000 miles. And same thing with the metals and stuff. I try and have some complementary colors in there too, because if you think they are shiny, so they would have some colors from the surrounding areas, so you want to make sure you include some of that. You don't have to go crazy, just a little bit here and there will really make it look a little shinier, because really it's contrast that makes stuff look shiny. So, you know, I've always been a fan of making the highlights like break out of the line art, because I think that really makes it look a lot shinier. Again, you're just increasing contrast essentially, so it kind of makes sense if you think about it like that. You know, let's add some little small details, and I think we are gonna be chillin'. I've also been recently a fan of just adding literally just random colors in the hair. I think it helps make it look a lot shinier. I don't know why. Maybe some of you color theory nerds kind of carry me there, but all I know is it looks good, so we will roll with it. So I like to think of hair as like individual clumps, and you're shading each of those individually, so that way when they work together and you like put them together, it looks more layered, and it looks like it's got more depth than it really does. And in reality, me and you, we both don't know what we're doing, and we're just kind of praying that something works. So it's a good way to make it look like you know what you're doing. Remember, we're artists, we gotta lie constantly. What I've been trying out recently is adding more saturated colors in clothes where it's a highlight. I don't know if it works necessarily, but I think it just adds like a little bit of something going on. And I think it hopefully works. I mean, in reality, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I can try and pretend. I say we need to add some highlights now, make it really come to life here. All right. So as per usual, we're gonna have pure white for the eyes here, coming from the top. And a little tip is the bigger you make the highlight and the pupil, the cuter the character looks. So that's just something to keep in mind too. Go, and then pure white on the metal, which we don't really need. And then we're gonna have almost white, but like a very yellow white for the highlights for the skin and stuff. Just because if you have pure white, I feel like it like conflicts with the eyes, because the eyes should be like they're the most moist thing in the entire character. So if it makes sense that they'd be the shiniest, right? So now we're to the question of what to do for a background, right? And a pretty easy thing that you can do, and it's a pretty easy default, is you just go straight to an eye color and you just make that the background. And generally it works out pretty well. Like, I think is it the best background? Probably not. Is it one of the easiest ones to do? Probably. I like to add a little gradient or little designs here. And then I always like to make a little border thingy with white here. And try and keep in mind the framing of the character too. Like this being on the edge here, I'm not a big fan of that. So we're gonna have to do something about that. So we can either go up higher or down more. And I think up higher might have been the play, because then it still captures a little bit of that head, so it pops out still, but just not to the extent. And we could always make it like asymmetrical too. I like to a little guy as well. And then you can always just erase it back up to have something cool. There we go. And then you can always just do like a teeny little gradient on the white just to bring the character up a little bit, and sign her in orange. And we're pretty much good. Well, here's our Mercedes mommy. I think it turned out pretty well, and it was a pretty fun challenge, if I'm gonna be honest, turning cars into different baddies, you know? I think next video, we're either gonna be doing probably bug to baddie, if I were to say, or maybe something Olympics themed even. I don't know exactly what that would be, but I just know the badminton team's awesome. So we might do something with that. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to see the full resolution drawing, it'll be my Twitter or Instagram down below. And hey, if you like the video, hit the sub button, like, comment, do all that stuff. But that's all I got, so see ya.